Here we're going to tie a fly called the Jujubaetis. First thing I'm going to do is start my white thread. Then we're going to tie in a tail. For this I'm going to use the tip of a partridge feather. So all the tips are nice and even. We want that to be about half the length of the shank of the hook, so I just roughly kind of measure it out. I'm just going to take this and wrap back down the shank of the hook with the feather on top of the shank. Just like so. And take my thread forward. The reason I do that is I'm trying to keep the body nice and smooth. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in some Superhair. One strand of black, two strands of either brown or tan. This fly is also tied in a PMD color, which is orange and black. It's also tied in purple, which is two purple and one black. I just tie in that Superhair at the front near the thorax, and then I take my thread back down the shank of the hook all the way to the back. Then I take my thread and evenly take it forward as smooth as possible all the way to the thorax again. Now to wrap this, I'm going to take a fairly loose and high wrap at first, and then I'm going to use my fingernail to push all the Superhair into place, just like so. And that way I don't have any gaps. And then you can take it and go forward with it. All the way to the thorax, and then you can capture it. Tie off the Superhair. Trim out the excess. Now I have another bobbin here with some black UTC 70 thread. I'm just going to wrap back up over the white and the thorax. And that captures all of it. And then I can trim out the white and the tag of the black. Now I can tie in the flash, which is just going to be a medium piece of pearlescent tinsel. I'm going to tie this in on top of the fly. And right on top of the thorax. Just like so. Now ready for the casing and the legs, which is just some white fluoro fiber. Hunk of about a dozen to 20 or so strands. Gotta be careful not to use too much. Don't use any more than 20. Roughly, I'm saying. We're going to tie our fluoro fiber in also on top of the shank of the hook. Take that all the way back to the back of the thorax and take our thread forward. Then we'll kind of round out this thorax here just a little bit, making sure it's even. This thread will serve as our thorax. Then I take that fluoro fiber and pull it right over the top. Put two wraps down. And I take that pearl tinsel. Put two wraps down, then I actually double it over itself. Do a couple of wraps. Then I trim it. And lastly, take our fluoro fiber, split it into two even clumps, and pull it to the side and lash it down with a wrap. Pull it down to the side and lash it down with a wrap. And then we clean up the head. Once you've got everything lashed down, you can whip finish. And then you're ready to trim the legs. I like the legs to just be a hair longer than the thorax, so I just measure it out and trim them. Do the same thing on the other side here. There we go. And that's all there is to the Jujubaetis. If you like, some people add epoxy or fly finish to the top of the fly to finish it off. That's a personal touch you can add. I think Charlie actually does call for that. I find that that falls off a lot of the times when it's just on the top, so I tie them without it, but certainly adds a nice touch to the fly. Makes it look very lifelike. That's basically how you tie the Jujubaetis.